Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. So going to do a bit of a roundup of news today as we had the Pro PUGs happening yesterday, so we will go over some of the hero choices and comps there, albeit briefly, and then also some other bits and pieces of news that we missed this week. I'll start with a shout out to Overwatch contenders. It's now pretty much all of the finals for all of the regions for Season 3. EU's already had their finals with Team Giganti winning. China will have its finals tomorrow, and then you have stuff like Korea and NA going on at the same time. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because Blizzard haven't done a very good job on promoting this, especially when you have this event going on at the moment. Of course, we have the Bastet Anna skin stuff going on at the moment with streamers having drops enabled on their specific channels, people like Emong and Fran, but drops aren't enabled on a contenders channel, which some players are seeing as a bad move. Not only that, when you have the finals going on at the moment for contenders EU, instead it's promoting the event, which I know got a lot of people wound up, so I wanted to start this video with a shout out to contenders to check out some really good finals going on at the moment. We're getting closer to the start of Season 2 of the Overwatch League, about a month's time until it begins again, and we got a nice warm up to it with Jayne doing some pro pugs. He did this for Blizzard headquarters, got a lot of pros such as Shofor and Jake and Jay Jonak to all play in pro games on the PTR, and I wanted to highlight some really interesting stuff. But I do want to also say that we will have Jayne on the channel sometime next week, so if you do have any questions for Jayne to ask him about the new PTR patch, then do let me know in the comments below. There's been some gameplay on in the background showing off some of the games, and for the most part it's been a varied mix-up. I don't necessarily want to look at what the comps were ran as gospel specifically, but there was also stuff like Guts comp ran a couple of times. I just wanted to highlight two specific heroes that I saw their pick rate rising pretty dramatically, and pros really sticking with these hero choices. The first of which being Hammond, and now that's no surprise when you have Fate in, who loves to play Hammond in a lot of cases, but we even saw players like Muma picking up the hero on their map on Busan, for example. We can see how the compositions are very different to what we're used to. Granted, the first map was King's Row, so Guts Comp was going to be played. I imagine that's where Guts Comp is always going to be played at this rate, just on a flat map where Zarya is quite good. But here's just a prime example of when the map opens up the kind of heroes and compositions that can come out and be used. The diversity is pretty awesome, but as I said, these are pro pugs, there's nothing serious with them. If this was a serious game, I imagine both teams would probably still play Guts at this point. But Wrecking Ball is one of the heroes I wanted to highlight, being much more popular than he was before. No doubt the armor changes do help him out a little bit, but granted, it's only a change to armor, it's not really a significant buff for the hero. Another hero that I saw a good amount of and was happy to see was Ashe, and now Ashe was used in a lot of different compositions. She was played in this double hit scan with a soldier, another hero that had a big rise in his pick rate for these games at least. In a very sort of typical comp, Winston Diva, kinda divey, but having those DPS in that lineup too. But also when you go to watch Punch Gibraltar, you see that both teams are running kinda double sniper. You can see Jake and Kareev on hands-on Widowmaker respectfully. Technically triple sniper with Raucus playing the Anna too, but looking at the attacking team, it's fairly similar. Linksa is on the Widowmaker, but Bunny is on the Ashe, and it's interesting to see how much utility Bunny brings to that fight. I also noticed that Bunny didn't really do much with his ultimate, held onto it for a good portion of time, didn't really need to use it, but I am interested to see how the pros would effectively use Bob in certain situations when desired. But I guess on the attacking team it can be quite awkward, and trying to find an opportunity just means that you never really want to use the ult. It's made me really excited to see what pros could do when playing Hammond, like in compositions where Hammond is really good now that Goats is a little bit weaker, but certainly how players are going to utilize Ashe and really make her work. I think she's a hero that at the moment players are really wanting to see how the pros effectively use her, to see if there's any bits and pieces that they do that we can learn from, you know. So I don't want to play all of this gameplay. You can find the Twitch VOD in the description below if you want to give it a watch. But as I said, Jayne will be on next week talking about these games, the patch as a whole, giving his verdict. So if you do have any questions for him, put them in the comments below, as I said. Of course, this week we've had a lot of Ellie controversy, really too much to talk about at this point. It's typical that as soon as we make a video talking about the situation where we weren't sure whether Ellie was real or not, we kind of put out the video being like, we're not quite sure yet. Punisher announces that they were Ellie the same exact day, so it was pretty manic to say the least. But I don't really want to bring up the topic too much, but I do want to highlight something that XQC said on the subject, because it's actually very smart.
I hope that people don't clip out of context and use my word for word, right? But what I've realized is that I have a dislike for anybody, or people on Twitter who keep saying the sentence, there's not enough girls in esports. We need to have more girls. We need more girl players. And it's like, there's not enough. What the fuck? And the problem is not that there's not enough girls. The problem is that the girls are being bottlenecked by the trash community and the garbage culture around gamers that prevent them from walking forward. They bottleneck them. That's the real problem. But if you use the argument and say there's not enough girls, and overly include them, it does the exact opposite of the goal you're trying to reach in the first place.
It's a bit of a scattered statement because it's XQC, so I'll just try and quote it. The problem is that there's not enough girls. The problem is that the girls are being bottlenecked by the trash community and the garbage gaming culture. That stops them from going further, from improving, from thriving, and they bottleneck them. That's the real problem. But if you use the argument there's not enough girls and over-include them, it does the exact opposite of the goal you're trying to reach in the first place. He then goes on to say that one of the reasons is just the culture around gaming, that a lot of the pros in the Overwatch League that are male have been playing games their whole life. You know, from a very early age. Whereas I feel it's become much more culturally the norm for girls to be playing games from a young age. I know when I was young, boys were told to play games and play with action men, girls were told to play with Barbies. That's not necessarily the case, but I know as I've grown up that's become much more lenient, and there's less of a boys do boy things, girls do girl things. Kids can do whatever they want. So I do see in like 5 to 10 to 15 years, more girls being pro gamers because they've grown up to play games. Honestly, this comment is really sensible coming out of XQC. One of the smartest things he says. I know it doesn't necessarily wash out the bad stuff that XQC has said in the past, but I think this is a really wise statement and I definitely wanted to highlight it. One thing we failed to highlight during the week is that Jeff Kaplan was on a couple of streams. He was on for Emong and he was on for Fran. Now again, I just don't want to take clips from the stream. I definitely would recommend watching both of these streamers. They both have drops enabled for the current event too, so all the more reason to go watch them. But I did want to highlight at least a couple of things that Jeff Kaplan said. Jeff and Emong spoke about various different ways that they could sort of spice up competitive with different forms of queuing. Jeff was really against the idea of solo queuing, for example, because it would kill off playing together as groups. Grouping up already has a lot of problems and negative connotations around it, so I think it would definitely be the killing blow there. But the idea of having a role queue with separate SRs was an idea that Jeff Kaplan actually kind of liked.
I feel very confident in the matchmaking. What we're not always confident in is what player behavior is going to be. And sometimes we have a case where, you know, let's say you're the world's best Widowmaker player and you play Widowmaker all the time.
Okay.
And you've literally never played Reinhardt before. You know, right now we have a single MMR for you.
Yeah.
And we match you on that. And then as soon as you switch to Reinhardt, which you've never played before, we're off on our estimation, and everybody in that match is going to have a horrible experience because of it. Like, I love the world where my tanks, my damage, and my healers all want to be playing tank damage. Like, the guy playing Hanzo right now really wanted to play damage, and I know that he's the proper skill level. Like, he's not a Mercy main. He's actually at the same skill level that my Diva's at, that Hanzo's at. Like, I think that's a huge benefit.
On Fran's stream, Jeff Kaplan said that more comics are coming soon, which is good because 2018 didn't have any. Already 2019 has more comics than 2018, which says a lot. One interesting thing that I guess both me and Mystical wanted to highlight is that on the subject of guilds, Jeff said that guilds are a desired feature, but there's no timeline on it. But that's what people assumed that the new social feature that was meant to come out at the start of 2019 was going to be. So it does raise a question specifically what the new social feature is going to be. He also said that the guild system, he would want it to be through Battle.net and not just Overwatch on the far horizon. Kinda like voice chat. Voice chat was an Overwatch thing, but then was integrated into the Blizzard system when it had a big revamp. He then goes on to say that the new PvE mode will probably be at Archives. It says that there's going to be no massive changes to ranked soon, but there are some things in the works. Jeff says that the stuff in the works when it comes to competitive, but there's no massive changes coming soon. But that's some of the main things that I wanted to highlight. We of course have the stuff with the pro pugs, XQC's very solid response on the Ellie situation, then other controversy surrounding Overwatch contenders and its lack of exposure, and of course the stuff that Jeff Kaplan said on the stream a couple of days ago. Thank you very much for watching, just topping you up when it comes to news. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take care.